Hey y'all, it's Trucker Zach, and welcome back to my channel. Greetings from home. I hope y'all are doing well out there. Yeah, there is some clutter back there, but we can deal with that on this episode. And I'm not talking about cleaning up the clutter in the house either. You truck drivers have some seriously dirty habits, which I need to address because, well, let's just say a cluttered dashboard, a cab that smells like cigarette smoke, and oh yeah, I've seen some video of drivers peeing on the fuel island, which is totally shameful because there's no privacy there, especially when the restrooms are broke. So, there may be a few sponsor plugs involving my fan shop on this, and I'm just giving y'all a heads up. I really could use some support from the fan shop right now. So go check out truckerzacksfanshop.com when you're through watching this video and order yourself a tote bag today. Now, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about in terms of dirty driver habits is leaving paperwork like this all over your dashboard. See, this is where that tote bag I just mentioned comes in. It just says keep on trucking it. And look, this thing's massive. It's made for your paperwork. As well as binders and other stuff that you can use to get organized. Because, I mean, especially if you run a day cab, this is an essential. Due to the fact that the dashboard is not the place for your paperwork. I mean, the dashboard is horrible. Also consider some binder clips. You can put them on your sun visors and fold up your paperwork, and it's right there at arm's reach. So it's not cluttering up your dash. I really hate clutter. I mean, at home, I really don't have the time to clean up. But in my truck, I just absolutely hate it. And I admit, I'm not the best at keeping clean. So, something like this and a pair of binder clips will really, really help you in the clutter department. Also, if you're a day cab runner especially, but even if you're not, a simple binder. Now, I do not offer this on my fan shop, but most every truck stop has these. And if you run paper logs, get a loose leaf logbook also, unless your company tells you have to use theirs. If the company tells you have to use theirs, just get one of these binders and keep your logbooks in it. Now, if you run an ELD, okay, ELDs are a whole separate problem from paper logbooks. And most of the time, the company will provide a mount or just have it installed for you. So you don't need to worry about those. And I will go on to the next item. Okay, so something to do about all your bottles and your personal items, that kind of stuff. In the background, I have a backpack, which I occasionally use for things like masks, shampoo, first aid kit, etc. Alternatively, and this does work, especially if you have a day cab with space between the seats, like maybe a Freightliner with an auto shift. Get yourself a cooler or two like this. Now, this one's fairly inexpensive and available at dollar stores and Walmarts everywhere. Some truck stops also may have them. But what this allows you to do is to keep your stuff crated, so it's not flying around all over the cab. And the best part is that strap that's on here, you can thread your seatbelt through this, and it will keep this from slipping and flying. Again, great for day cabs and also good for sleepers, especially auto shifts. Since on an auto shift, you don't have that big stick in the way. Also, your fire extinguisher should be, if it's not under the bunk, it should be secured to the floor somewhere near the driver's seat, so that in the event of an emergency, you can quickly get to it. Now, on my Tundra, I keep it in the door pocket since the Tundra already provides accommodation for that. But in a Freightliner, again, if it can't be put in the side box, it should be secured to the floor. And that's an essential DOT item, by the way. So if you're on PAP therapy, or if you carry a lot of medications, you can get something like this Tenba Bring Your Own Bag Organizer. This one's the Tenba Tools, by the way, for my medicine. Or you could get something like a camera bag, like this, and put your meds and your smaller bottles in it. And trust me on this one, I've seen a lot of dirty closets just because fluids have spilled due to the drivers not using a proper bag. And when those fluids spill, and I don't care what kind of fluids they are, they cause mold and they cause the cab to stink. So use your bags and your coolers accordingly. And this particular one, let me get a tote bag right quick. Maybe that one that I was showing earlier, or I'm trying to keep myself down here. Or maybe this little Texas flag one that's available at many truck stops up here in Texas. You just slip your item in there. And then you can do the same thing you did with the cooler and attach it to the seat or slip it in your closet. And same goes for a camera bag or something similar to that. Now I need to address the ones and the twos. So now we go on to number 1 and number 2. And some of you drivers are very disgusting about this. So I've covered the clutter in the first few parts. But number 1 and number 2 make a cab exceptionally gross. And by exceptionally gross, I mean, well, they're just nasty. Pun intended. So, I want y'all to invest in some plastic containers and some plastic bags. And by plastic bags, I mean the quart or the gallon size Ziploc bags. And by plastic containers, I specifically mean Gladware, or whatever its generic equivalent is. Here in Texas, if you have an HEB, it's called Texas Tough. Other places may just call it Ultra Tough, or, like I said, or Plasticware, something like that. Gladware, I already mentioned that name, that's the brand name version. But you need a few of these disposable plastic containers for poo, in addition to using them for storage stuff. And the reason why is because there is no other way that you are going to effectively seal this nasty methane producing disgusting number 2 when you get the diarrhea in the truck. Now, I've tried flip-top trash cans, and it's for really severe cases, but even then, you're going to be using a lot of paper, and your cab's going to stink until you get that can out of there, and you thoroughly clean it and disinfect it. So, I've got the experience to know this stuff. If you can't make it inside the truck stop, at the very least, use Gladware, use jugs, since you're going to have these available and they're cheap. But to dispose of them, you need to follow your state's environmental laws. So for the jugs, I would say, if you can, slip them in a bag and take them in the shower where you can dump them in the toilet. For the Gladware, you need to put it inside a gallon or a quart-sized plastic bag, then put it into another plastic bag to dispose of it in your waste. And do the same with your toilet paper as well. And by the way, for you new drivers to the United States, especially if you're coming from a Muslim country, we condemn, not condone, condemn you drilling holes in the floor and in your seat to pee and poo while you're going down the road. And, by the way, let's go on to another disgusting habit, since there is a type of foot wash station here, but it may cost you money in order to use it. So in the United States, if you're coming from a Muslim country and heading to these truck stops, we do not put these little dinky foot wash stations in the truck stops. And we do not want you washing your feet in the sink either. What we do instead is we give you a whole room called a shower. This is a place where you can not only wash your feet, but wash your whole body. Because we believe in cleanliness. And washing just your feet alone is not the way to stay clean. So, if your carrier doesn't provide you a shower, the truck stop will. It's usually a $10 fee to use it, but some prices may vary depending on the chain you choose, the location, etc. Please, don't wash your feet in the sink. Instead, pay for a shower and use it. And nothing but. Now, alternatively, if you can't take a shower, in the men's care section of the truck stop, it's located typically by the cleaning supplies and by the trucker tools. And usually, in addition to things like shampoo and deodorant, you'll see things like electric razors, for example. But in that aisle is something called a pack of deodorant wipes. Or flush wipe. They may be called flush wipes. They may be called something else. Or, in the worst case scenario, you can go to the cough and cold section and buy a pack of Kleenex along with a bottle of, well, hand sanitizer. And what you do is you take one of these and you wipe your feet off that way. Us diabetics already know we have to do this on a daily basis because that's part of our daily foot check. In order to make sure that the feet aren't swelling and to also make sure that the nerves can still feel the action of the pedal underneath them. To avoid injury and, So we're already familiar with your whole foot wash routine. And unfortunately, since truck stops will never provide public washing stations, the shower is going to be your best alternative. And a deodorant wipe is your next best. So, I'm sorry for picking on your religion or whatever country you're from for this, but you have to learn our way or else. Because we already know here in the US that hand dryers and certain bathroom sinks spread disease. And in the truck stop, they're notorious for having those two items. Now, if you're washing your feet in the sink, that makes it gross for the next person who touches the sink. So, stop washing your feet in the sink. Use a shower. Okay, one last item. This one's for you state departments of transportation and for you truck stop operators. Your hand dryers are gross. That's right. Those things that look like urinals or look like little boxes on the walls that are supposedly used to dry your hands off, they are nasty. They are filthy. They are disgusting. And what happens is the driver, faced with a choice of using one of those and not having paper towels available, ends up either grabbing toilet paper from the toilet stall, which is gross in itself, especially if they leave it all over the floor, or they just wipe their hands on their shirt. And the reason why is very understandable. It's because y'all screwed up, especially now that we're getting into the post-pandemic era, where we take the lessons that we learned from bullshit 19 and we apply them to prevent another pandemic. Of course, you'd understand if you've actually been through it. Like, for instance, if you're coming from one of those Muslim countries that was locked down just so you can keep your income. Or if you're new to this whole driving thing, and, well, you get the idea. So, you need to get yourself a tote bag. This one's not my design, by the way, unlike the other one. And get yourself some paper towels, as well as maybe those flush wipes. Let's just, for the sake of this purpose, use the same bag for your flush wipes, your paper towels, and your toiletries. So you just take that toiletry bag into the restroom with you, and if it doesn't have paper towels, you use your own. Then dispose of it in the trash can if one's provided. So, there you have it, y'all. Some ways to stay clean and stop with some of these dirty habits. There's two more that I chose not to address in this episode because they have causes. They are the man doing the thing to his you-know-what, and nose picking, because that can be caused by things that you might not understand. And I actually have one of those things. It's called allergies. But you definitely should talk with your doctor if you're having to constantly do either of those bad habits anyway. Because chances are you have to get treated for something, and you'll still end up doing those habits for the rest of your life. So, I've addressed the clutter in the cab. I've addressed the number one and the number two, as well as some restroom etiquette. There's one more thing I need to address. Because a lot of y'all use caffeine, but some of y'all have gone even further and done something that's even more and more disgusting. Now, here's a habit that is so disgusting that it can make the drivers who drive after you sick. In more ways than one. It's impossible to clean up, especially if you just do it straight on the dashboard like a driver did to the truck I was using last week. But it's just so nasty that it can cause cancer, it can aggravate asthma and diabetes, it can aggravate allergies, and it can even start a wildfire, believe it or not. I'm talking about the habit of smoking, and vaping, and chewing. Now, chewing is the least disgusting of these habits. We'll get into that a little bit later. But if you smoke cigarettes, or if you vape, this one's for you. Sure, vaping leaves water vapor and smells behind. And smoking, well, it obviously leaves tar, nicotine, and cancer-causing substances behind for the driver behind you to smell and cough on and all that stuff after you get through using the truck. So, and on top of that, I've noticed a lot of drivers starting wildfires because they flick their cigarettes out the window thinking that's the solution to the problem. So if you smoke, first, make sure you tell your dispatcher that you're a smoker so that he can assign you a truck that's been previously smoked in. And make sure that you get an ashtray. Ashtrays are cheap. Ashtrays leave less clutter versus actually smoking and flicking it out the window. And ashtrays prevent wildfires. So, if you're going to keep smoking, get an ashtray. It's well worth the money. And it goes right in your cup holder. So, yes, that means one of your cup holders will be occupied. But make no mistake about it, we're not in the 1980s anymore. Trucks don't come equipped with ashtrays anymore because a lot of drivers, myself included, don't smoke. And instead use those power outlets for things like cell phone chargers, GPSs, etc. Okay, so for those of y'all who dip, a drink bottle may come in handy for you. And here's another thing. If you choose to dip, or to chew gum for that matter, you can reuse a drink bottle to dispose of your spit and your artifacts. And if you must do either of those, chewing or dipping, one product I would suggest that you try instead of trying tobacco would be Grind's coffee pouches. I've loved them for years, and instead of nicotine and tar, they contain caffeine and coffee. And they're a great product. So, if you must dip, try those. Those first. If you cannot find those for whatever reason, and you decide to do tobacco, the good news is, between tobacco dip and grinds, and gum, it's all the same procedure. You chew it, you spit it into a bottle, and you call it a day. Use that bottle kind of like the smoker would use an ashtray. Then, when you're done with the bottle, unlike the ashtray, you just throw it out when you're done. In a proper receptacle, of course. So, that does it for now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more content like this and ring the notification bell so you don't miss a future episode of Truckin' It. And for those of y'all who want to help me get through my financial crisis and help me deal with all the stuff that's going on and help yourself at the same time by making that cab more organized, go on to truckerzacksfanshop.com and order a tote bag today. Use the promo code down in the description below. to receive 10% off your order. I'm Trucker Zach Bell, and until next time, let's make your best trip your next trip. Keep learning, keep thinking, keep on trucking. Bye for now.